Multimedia is a bit like walking through a door. A whole new world opens up before our eyes. Now, the basic building blocks of multimedia are these strange things called hyperlinks and hypertext. But if you've ever used a word processor before, then you've already entered hyperspace. This is just an ordinary word processing package with the help menu up in the top right-hand corner. If I click on it and scroll down to examples and demos, then up pops a screen full of headings. Now, each of these headings is in fact a hyperlink, and I can tell that because the cursor changes from an arrow to a hand. So we have hyperlink and hyperlink. The help pages are in fact one document, with the hyperlinks quickly navigating me from one part of the package to another. You can think of them a bit like shortcuts, but hyperlinks can take me to more exciting places than just another part of the document. We've put together a package to show you some of the flavours and possibilities involved in multimedia. We've included our own hyperlinks. Here's one, geek, and if I click on it, I get a definition of the word geek, which in this case means somebody who's spending too long on their computer. This Adventure in Multimedia package is available on a series of diskettes, which allow you to get to grips with multimedia for yourself. You can get a copy by writing to This Multimedia Business, PO Box 7, London W5 2GQ. You don't need a CD-ROM player, but you do need an IBM-compatible PC. Don't forget to make your cheques payable to BBC Education and also include your address. If I continue to scroll down the documents, I can see a picture of a flower here, but it's not just a picture, it's actually a hyperlink, which leads me to a bigger version of the same picture, which looks like a beautiful hibiscus flower. Further down is another hyperlink to a file that's just begging for attention. And no, it's not mine. Further down is another hyperlink which leads me to a MIDI file. MIDI files are often used for storing sound, and it's a topic we'll be coming back to later in the series. And finally, the all-singing, all-dancing multimedia, or, you guessed it, video. That's quite enough of that. Obviously, the more modern your computer, the more of the package you'll get to use. If you don't have a sound card, for example, you clearly won't be able to hear the sound, but the extensive text should give you a greater understanding of what's involved in multimedia. Hypertext Markup Language, or HTML. It all sounds a bit like Greek, but as we've been hearing, it's the language of the World Wide Web. Via a modem and this telephone line, I'm plugged in live to the internet. And this is just one of the millions of pages of information that you can receive on the web. In fact, it's our very own homepage. If I whisk through it, you can see there are images and hyperlinks, but it actually looks nothing like this when we first get it down the telephone line. We can see what it does look like by going into View and then Source. And here we have an altogether different page. This page of seeming gibberish is actually HTML in the raw, and it's a piece of software on the computer called a browser that turns this into a semi-meaningful web page. So if you want to make your own web page, you'll first have to grapple with HTML. Now, some people have got very good at it. Some people can write in HTML, they may even dream in HTML, but there is an easier way, and that's by using an HTML writer. We downloaded ours from the web. This is a page I've created to make my very own homepage. Now, I'll start off by writing my name, Vanessa's page, I think. Okay. Now, I'd like to have this in large letters in the centre of the page, and I can easily do that by using some of the functions on my toolbar. Here we go. All I need to do is highlight my words, click on headings, and I'll choose heading 1, which is the biggest heading. From then I'd like to centre it, notice the American spelling there, and then I click on OK, and here it is in HTML. There's H1, which tells us it's the largest heading size, and it's aligned at the centre. Just after my words is a / and then the H1. That cancels the commands. Next, I'd like to put an image on the page, so again I can just click on my toolbar on the Image button. Now, I need to tell the computer where to find that image, and here's one I created using a simple paint package. So I'll click on OK, and again that puts it in HTML. Now, if I want to check what this looks like on my own web page, all I need to do is click on this button with the tick on, and that fires up the web browser. Here we go. And here's my page. There's Vanessa's page written in large text in the centre of the page, and this, believe it or not, is me. Not too bad, eh? Once I'm happy with the pages I've created, all I need to do is send the files to my internet service provider, and they'll launch them on an unsuspecting world. I'll be doing more on getting connected to the internet in a later programme. Our world is in colour. Many of our computers work in colour, and our software packages design things in colour. It's only at the printing stage where everything is often reduced to black and white, but it need not be so. Colour printers like this aren't that expensive these days, and it could be just the job to get that extra bit of sparkle in your presentation. Problem is that now you've got all these colours to hand, what happens if you're not too confident about your skills as a graphic designer? Well, some software packages have even thought of that. Here's a slide that I'd like to use in one of my presentations. Now, it's not bad. It's got a title, it's got a subtitle, and it's got this pie chart here, but it does lack something in the way of colour. Now, I can put that right by going into Format and scrolling down to Slide Colour Scheme. This allows me to choose my colour scheme. So I click on that, and first I get to choose my background colour. Let's have a look. There's a number of colours here, but I think I'll go for red. Next, I get to choose the text and line colour. And again, I can scroll down through a list of colours, and I think I'll go for this bluey-greeny colour. Now, that's chosen 2 colours. Altogether, I'm choosing from 8 base colours, and the computer luckily chooses the rest for me. It's just like having a graphic designer in your machine. Now, I'm given 4 options, and this one looks the best, so I'll click on that, click on OK, and then click on Apply to All. And wait a few seconds and it should load up. Now, that's not bad. It's got some nice colours in the pie chart, but I think there's just a bit too much red. So what I'm going to do is change this framing colour. So again, I go into Format, scroll down to Slide Colour Scheme, and I'm just going to change the accent colour, which is the colour of the frame. So I'm going to click on Change Colour, and I think I'll choose a sort of emerald greeny colour. Click on OK, click on Apply, wait a few seconds, and there we have it. Not bad at all. And now to print. All I need to do is click on this little printer icon here. There we go. A few seconds, and we should see it coming out. The look of your presentation is important. Statistics show that 55% of your presentation is down to visual impact, so it's important to get it right. But remember, vivid colours are no compensation for a dull presentation. And while it may look very professional, it could still be a case of lies, damned lies, and colourful statistics. Let's see how the printer's getting on. And here we have it. Not too bad for a first attempt. There you go. For many people, when they think about multimedia, the first thing they think of is sound. But if you're working in an office, especially an open plan office, the last thing you want is more noise from your computer. This is a sound card. Plug one of these into your computer, add a few speakers, and you have entered the world of sound. But few of us in small businesses have the luxury of spending our normal working days playing music or playing games. What we need is something a bit more useful, and this could be the perfect combination. As well as a sound card, we've got a modem connected, but not all modems can handle speech, so this is a voice modem. Now connect this to an ordinary phone line, and you can turn a simple computer into a voicemail system. This is a typical startup screen. Click on this, and I can see all the system messages that are available. These are the kind of messages that callers will hear when they dial into your voicemail system. And you can see there's quite a few options on offer. There's fax or data files that you can send, or you can use something called a faxback service. Faxback is when somebody can call into your computer, simply punch in their fax number, and then receive simple documents stored on your computers like press releases or price lists. You can even customise the messages that people hear. I've customised one down here. Here we go, greetings, and I'll just play that for you.
You're through to the production office of This Multimedia Business. To leave a message, dial 1. To use our faxback service for information about the series, dial 2. Or stay on the line for assistance.
Now, with so many options on offer, you've got to keep track of what's going on, and you can easily do that by looking at one of the other screens here. And here it is. If I click on voice message, I get a complete record of everything that's been happening to my voicemail system. I can see that I've received no data files, I've received 1 fax message, and I've received 3 voicemails. When I go over to the voicemail box, I can see the date and the time and the duration of the calls, who they've been for, in this case for me, and whether they're new or whether they've already been picked up. I can easily play a message just by clicking on it and then pressing play.
Hi Vanessa, it's Stephen Heppel here. Just wanted to let you know I've got some ideas about how we might use sound in business applications. I look forward to seeing you in a bit.
More from Stephen later, but first this. If you have even a reasonably powerful computer, you can do a lot more than just playback video. You can record it yourself, but first you'll need one of these, a video capture card which fits neatly into your computer. This video capture card converts your analog video footage into a digital form which the computer can understand and then deal with. But as we've just been hearing, video files are absolute giants, gobbling up megabytes like nobody's business. But it is easy to see why. Each picture is made up of pixels, over 300,000 on a normal screen. On top of that, you've got to add your colour information and your sound information. And then if you want those pictures to move, you'll need between 15 and 30 frames per second. Now, all that sounds a complete nightmare, but luckily the software itself is a dream to use. So for my video magic, all I need is my video capture card, my tape still hot in the camera, my software, and I've also got a television monitor for my digital video playback. So I go into File, into Capture, and then across to Movie Capture. This brings up a box on the screen with a record button. Now I've already queued up my tape, so all I need to do now is press play on the video recorder and start recording when the pictures appear. Here we go. Now, while it's recording, unfortunately, I can't get to see the video clip itself. That's just too much for the computer to handle. It's juggling with an awful lot of things, and unfortunately, it's the recording pictures which get lost. Now, I think that's about it, so I'll press escape on that and stop on the camera. And then it's quite easy to go back and see the clip I've just videoed. I just click here on this button.
If you think that a kilobyte is a fatal jaw injury or 8 RAM a modest gathering of male sheep, we have some explaining to do. Vanessa.
That man gets everywhere. Now, that was only a 10-second clip, but if I go into this top left-hand button here and scroll down to Movie Analysis, I can see that the file size is 150 megabytes, so I won't be capturing any feature films just yet. But I can do an awful lot with what I've got. For example, I can edit together a short sequence, but I won't be able to put that straight into a presentation because the file size is just too big. But I can reduce it using a technique known as compression. Now that takes quite a while. I can use this software to do it, mind, but at least that gives me a good excuse to go out for lunch and leave the computer running at the same time. And just imagine the impact for your customers when you can show them a video demonstration of your latest product, or even a personal message from the company director. Then again, get a life, Richard. Flared jeans are already back in fashion. But while we wait for Richard's super CD-ROMs of the future, software designers are coming up with some new uses for the current technology. Nowadays, when you buy a package on CD, there's bound to be some extra space at the end, and some companies are now using this for tutorials. Here's a package that's done that, only this time the tutorials are actually given by the people that design the software.
Hi, I'm Laura Dower, a graphic designer, and I'll be presenting this section on the fundamentals of using Photoshop. I'm going to quickly make a selection of just the window frames by holding down the Shift key and selecting just the windows in this image. So I'm going to choose Paste Into. So the selected area acts like a mask and it clips the image into just that area.
Now this is actually quite an advanced package, but it is possible to make your own CD-ROM, and for that you need one of these. This small box here is a CD-ROM burner, coming down in price all the time, and all you need to do is use one of these, which is a gold disc, a blank CD. Now this enables you to write once, read many. Write once, read many, worm. So the process of making your CD-ROM is called burning a worm. Easy to do, and you don't get in trouble with the animal rights activists. But how do you actually go about it? Well, if I just go into my bit of software here, all I need to do is click on the drive that contains the files I want to transfer, select them and simply drag and drop into the CD-ROM destination. I then go into Preview CD just to check that everything's working okay, which it looks like it is, and then just simply click on Make CD. Got a CD in there, and here it goes. Now, burning your own CD-ROM is seriously useful for small businesses. Just think of the storage capacity you get on one CD, about 650 megabytes. You can also use it for backup. Now, this is something small companies tend to forget about from time to time, but if you think carefully, if you've been using a computer for about a year, the value of the data on your hard drive is probably worth more than the computer itself. Another use is for multimedia presentations. You can put your presentation on a CD, send it out to your client. We'll be coming back to presentations later in the series, but let's see how this is getting on. And here we go, it looks like it's finished, so let's take a look at the worm that turned into a CD. All I do is take it out of there, pop it into my CD-ROM drive, go into my file manager, click on my F drive, which is my CD-ROM drive, and there it is. Let's see. So there you have it, not difficult at all. And an added bonus is each of those discs only costs about £5. Isn't technology terrifying? If being manipulative at work isn't your image, then perhaps it's time for a rethink, and perhaps it's time to get a scanner. Now, this is what's called a flatbed scanner. It's a bit of a monster, but you can get much smaller ones or handheld ones. I'm going to scan in this rather gruesome photograph here. Just pop it on the screen and close the lid again. I've already got my scanning software loaded, and I'm just going to click on Preview to let the computer know what it's dealing with. Now, doing this has let me know what file size it's going to be, and it's going to be about 2.5 megabytes, so it's pretty big, but we are in true colour. Now, if you don't want a computer to rule your life, you can choose whichever kind of resolution you want to go into, black and white, full colour, whatever. But I'm going to work with what the computer suggested. But I don't want to work with the whole photograph that I scanned in, so I'm just going to crop a bit out. There we go. I'm just going to scan that part of the photograph and see what that's done to the file size. We're now down to about 0.5 megabyte. I'm now ready to scan, so I just click on Final and give it a name. I'll call it NES Bitmap. Click on OK, and away we go. Now that it's scanned, I just need to go into my Paint package and open up the file I've just created. Scroll down, and here we go. NES Bitmap, open it up, and you can see it here. I'll just make that full screen for you. Now I'm going to put my cursor on this kiwi fruit here and zoom in to show you just how good quality it is. That really is pretty good, but you don't always want that kind of picture quality, and you certainly don't want that kind of file size for most applications. So I'm going to show you what difference it makes by going into Mode and scrolling down to Index Color. I'm now going to change things from 24-bit color to 8 bits, and that'll give me, instead of full color, 256 colors. Click on OK, and we can see the difference. That really is quite nasty. But if you then zoom out, we can see that the quality really isn't that bad at all. And the file size at 161 as opposed to 500 is much better for sending over the internet. Now, this kind of a use would be brilliant for scanning in, say, your company logo and importing that into a presentation. But for some really clever tricks, you want to use the scanner and the Paint package in action as a dynamic duo. I'm just going to close this down and open up a file I made earlier. Now, I scanned in this photograph here, a bit battered around the edges, but just see what I've been able to do with it. Click on OK. And there you see it in all its glory, still battered around the edges with loads of creases on it. But now see what I was able to do with it with the use of this dynamic duo. And here we go. Not only have I been able to completely touch it up using just the ordinary toolbar down the side of the screen, but I've also been able to replace, as if by magic, that lost corner there. So I'm pretty pleased with this. Perhaps I'll even do it in colour next time. Never mind what Richard says, about half of all internet use is for email. But what exactly is it? In simple terms, email or electronic mail is just two computers talking to each other down a telephone line. And for that, you need one of these, a modem. This converts the computer's digital chatter into an audible signal. But you still need to send your message to a post office, as it were, only in this case, it's your local service provider. I'm using a bit of communication software, as well as my modem, and just to check that it's all up and running, I'll just go into it now. Everything seems to be okay. And so now I'm free to fire up my email program. And there we have it. Now, you can do lots of things with your email package. You can obviously send new mail, but it's much more fun to see what mail has come in for you. To do that, I'm just going to open up my incoming mail here. Dear Ness, love the show so far. Only a pity there isn't more of me in it. Other than that, great. P.S. What's in the rest of the programmes? All the best, your friend in the anorak, Richard Topping. Well, if that's not begging for a reply, I don't know what is. So I'll go into message, click on reply, and start to type. Dear Richard, the series has been greatly improved since we cut you out of it. Only kidding. But I'll send that just by clicking on the send button here, and that'll go winging its way into cyberspace. Now, email may look pretty basic with only one typeface used, but you can actually do some pretty snazzy things with it. If I go into Message and scroll down, I can see an option called Attach Document. I'm not going to do that now, but what I could do is attach any file off my computer, and that can be a word processing file, it can be a sound file, it can even be an image file, and that'll be received at the other end in exactly the same form that you created it in. Now, one thing you've got to be very careful about with email is getting the address right. Whereas in the past we could get away with sending a letter addressed to the White House down the Wiggly Lane next to the duck pond on the left, and the poster would know where to deliver it, that's just not the case with email. You need to be precise. My address, for example, is multimedia_biz@bbcnc.org.uk, and even getting one of those dots wrong can be a case of return to sender, address unknown. If there's one thing you're sure to find on the internet, then it's more information about the internet. But suppose my business interests have more to do with the real as opposed to the virtual world. How do I find what I want? After all, there are thousands of new websites added every month. Over the short space of time that the web's existed, a number of sites have become rightly famous for the help that they offer. I'm going to look at one with the brilliant name of Yahoo. That's from Stanford University in the United States. This offers everything from arts information to science to government and health. But for my business purposes, I'm going to look at computers and the internet. Click on that, it leads me straight into another list of headings. And I'm going to look a bit further at desktop publishing. Again, click on that, more information, and so on until you find what you want. But a more direct or alternative method is to use the power of the computer itself to search the documents. I can do this by clicking on the search button, and this leads me into a page of search engines. I'm going to choose a search engine called Web Crawler. Now, the beautiful thing about search engines is you just have to type in one keyword. I'm going to type in the word multimedia. Click on search. And depending on the speed of your modem, it might take a while to load up the pages, but this one's pretty quick. It's already found 7,769 documents and returned 25 for me to have a look through, which is quite enough for one night's bedtime reading. Let's have a look at this one, Multimedia, Welcome to New Era Art. Click on that, see what it gives us. Please wait. And here we have it, New Era Art, so new art for a new technology. But it didn't seem to give us our multimedia business pages. Let's have a wee check. Don't appear to be there. So if you want to have a look at those, a good place to start is the address http://www.bbcnc.org.uk. Now, if instead of looking for information on the internet, you want to get people to look at your own business pages, then first you have to attract them to your website. Now, there have been tons of information written about marketing on the internet, but there are some basic concepts involved, and that is you've got to enter into the spirit of things or give something away for free. Hardly a fashionable business idea, but one international company has taken this very much on board. This film manufacturer offers us, you guessed it, photographs, and I can just click on those, download them and manipulate them as I like, as long as I don't use them for commercial purposes, that is. But as well as the photographs themselves, it also gives us information about the photographs, how they were taken and how they were developed. And the clever thing is that it's within this information that the advertising is stored. So basically you end up with the beautiful images leading you into the advertising. Working with multimedia presentation packages can be an absolute nightmare, a bit like the tail wagging the dog, but I've come across a rather snazzy bit of software that puts you very much in control. So, as I say in all the best programs, here's one I made earlier. Now, with any presentation, it's essential to think about your audience, but seeing as this is the last in the series, I thought we'd have a bit of fun instead. Now, this presentation just took me a couple of hours to put together, and if you don't mind me saying so, I'm rather proud of myself. So here goes, let's fire it up. Who needs a real audience to clap when you can just have this on your slide instead? And I can click straight on to slide number 2. What can it do, it asked me. Well, I'll tell you what it can do. It can wait until I finish talking before it slides in the next row of text. What can it do? All sorts of tricks. What more, we ask? Well, if I click on here, a button appears with Press Me on it. So I'll press, and we get that element of surprise that's lacking from 99% of all presentations. That'll get them on the edge of their seats. Moving on. Most statistics in presentation are really, really dull, but I don't think this slide suffers from that. Now, I enjoyed that so much, I think we'll go behind and see exactly what was going on. I can take you into the timeline, give you a clearer idea of exactly how that slide's made up. We've got all the different components here. We've got the graph, we've got the arrow, and we've got the wow sign. And if you look closely, you can see they're all neatly dovetailed one after the other so that they flow throughout the progression of the slide. I've then got my 5 buttons, and I've also got the sound files here as well. I've got the slow slide for the graph, and I've got the applause. Remember this? Yes, I thought that was jolly good too. Okay, quite enough of that. We'll move on. Here goes. Now, with any series, it's always interesting to see what the presenter looks like in the raw. And I thought I'd give you this unique opportunity now. This is what I looked like before I went into makeup. And they are the sounds of laughter of the BBC makeup department. And I'm afraid in the hysteria, their voices dropped a few octaves. And this is what I look like afterwards. Thought this was meant to be PC, but I enjoyed that so much. I'll do it again. Not bad, eh? Okay, but now it's time for the pièce de résistance of any presentation, and that's the all-singing, all-dancing multimedia, or as ever, video. And there it goes, launching us into the wonderful world of multimedia. Multimedia computing involves a vast amount of memory, both ours and the computer's. There never seems to be enough. Help! Only you can decide whether your future will be multimedia.